All right, guys. I got my guy Walker. How do you say your last name again?
Galliena.
Galliena.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Everyone messes that up, huh?
Yeah.
What do they normally say?
Galleen or Galen.
Galen. Yeah, I think Galen is what I would have guessed if you didn't tell me. So, got with my guy Walker. Walker, you've been with us now for about a year, full time with FFL.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just about a year.
About a year. Got it.
In February, it'll be a year.
Cool. And you've always, we talked about it before we started. You've always done sales, right? What?
Yeah, well, hospitality for 10 years of my life. So restaurants, bars, all the good stuff, everything, there's always a job in hospitality and always a hot meal is what I got told when I moved out. So I was always working in restaurants, but ever since 7 years ago, it's been sales.
Okay. So 10 years hospitality, 7 years sales, and then car sales, and any other type of sales you did before this?
I did like a credit card terminal for like 2 months, and that was it was pretty shady. So I left that, and then car sales.
So mostly car sales.
Yeah, 5 years of car sales. So.
Got it. What do you think the biggest difference between doing car sales and insurance sales is?
Honestly, like I don't really feel like I've sold anything since I started this business. You know, like and not in the sense that I haven't sold any policies, but like car sales are really like a hard pressure kind of sale.
Yeah.
And also it's kind of this buy or die mentality because, and obviously there's some of that to a degree in this, but in car sales, there's 8 other dealerships down the street. They all have basically the same cars, right? So it's if you don't get them right there, then they're just going to go somewhere else down the street. And so there's kind of a lot of high pressure tactics in it. And I think,
I feel like you can look everything up online now, right? So it's like what the price should be because you could look at what Kelley Blue Book or any dealer website, and it basically tells you what you can get the car for. 100%. So it kind of takes a lot of I feel like there's not that much you can do as a salesperson, right? They already kind of know what they can get it for.
Exactly, right? So there's really not any, and like how you get paid in car sales is there's front end and back end. So where the high pressure would come in is like you get the car for what you want, and then you come out with a payment, and they're like, okay, I can pay that payment. And then they go to the back office and they're like, what's this $7,000 of warranties, and that's where you make all the money there. So
you make that, or the warranty person makes that?
Well, you make a percentage of it. Like,
got it.
Now I think my commission just got bumped up to 10%. So now it's 110% commission. I used to be jacked about 10,
Got it. So you would make 10% of the front end or the back end sale, or how did that work in car? I don't really know how car sales commission. I never asked anyone that before. So.
Yeah, so it's like gross profit on the front is like, say you take a car in on trade for like $14,000, and you sell it for $17,000. The shop's $1,000. There's $2,000 of profit. So if
you get 10% of that,
or usually you get like 20% of the front end, and then like 10% of the back end.
Got it.
So if you sold, that, you'd get $200, and then the back end, if it was $5,000 a warranty, you'd get $500. So you'd make, or is that wrong? Somewhere around, but either way, yeah, it's really not very high commission. You know what I mean? To get a high commission in car sales, that means somebody paid a lot more than they should have.
Got it.
Long story short.
Got it.
Which was really big in 2020.
Yeah, because everyone was buying used cars for way above sticker price, right?
Yeah, new. I mean, new cars. We were literally crossing off MSRPs and writing an extra 10,000 on it. And they're like, why? You're like, because we have it.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of that's like what I mean by it was like sales, right? And you really had to sell this product. But that's what I love about this is that it's more so like education to these folks. A lot of people. There's a lot of agents out there, obviously, but if you can just what I found is if you're just real with them and you keep it simple for them, then they understand, they know what they need.
Well, like you said, when you guys were raising the price by $10,000, that wasn't because you were better at sales. That was just because the market determined you could do that, right?
Yep. And everyone thought they were great at sales because they could do it. What I mean? Like everyone's clapping themselves on the back. And
but right now, December of 2024, interest rates are kind of high. There's plenty of inventory, right? So I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure car sales are not crushing it right now, right? Like all the people that thought they were.
The people, I mean, I'm sure the 1% still are. But for the most part, no one I know is. I've known a lot of people who have left the car industry since in the last few years because of that, or gone to roofing, solar, insurance.
Yeah, just because the industry's changed a little bit. It's not as easy as it was before, I'm sure, right? So it's.
Yep. I truly believe in the next 10 years or so, there won't be many car salesmen left. I think it'll be a really streamlined process with 2 salespeople. I just don't think there'll be a place for car salespeople anymore.
Well, yeah, that's an industry where it would be pretty easy to make it basically seamless, where you don't need a rep. Like in insurance, you kind of need someone to explain how the policy works and call the consumer. And there's companies that try to go direct to consumer, but it's like everyone needs to have a life insurance policy, and if you represent all the companies, you can get them the best one. People are gonna buy a car either way, right?
Yep.
Like I remember I just bought I have a Escalade I bought a little bit ago, and I was texting with a few different people about it, and everyone was like, I need to come in. And the one guy texted me back, he was like, can you come see it in person? I was like, dude, I'm super busy. If we can hammer out all the details via text, I will come pick the car up.
Yep.
But if you try to make me come in, I'm going to be pissed. I'm not going to buy from you.
Yeah.
And the other guys were like, well, you got to come test drive it. I'm like, dude, stop. Just tell me what like the payment's going to be. And I don't need to test drive it. I will come pick it up.
Yeah. You're like,
and so the one guy who's the dealership's by my house, he goes, and I'm like, I live 5 minutes from your dealership, literally 5 minutes. So if you can work with me via text, I'll come, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
I got there and he was like, you want to test drive it? I'm like, I'm already buying it. He's like, well, we should probably just test drive it anyways. I'm like, okay, sounds good. But like, dude, the other guys were trying to make me come in to upsell me, I'm sure. I'm like, if you work with me via text, I will buy from you 100%. Like it's a sale, you know?
And that's so funny because like in car sales, that's like really, that was like the hard thing. That's what I wanted to do. That's like kind of, I sold a lot of cars over the phone and like via text message. And like but the dealerships don't like that, right? They want you to come feel the car, be there in person so we can sit down and work it. Right?
Yeah.
You know, but
that why? Is just so they can up the price or change terms or get you to do whatever?
Once you drive it, there's emotional attachment.
Got it.
Right. So they want you to be attached to this vehicle.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't want to just play all their cards because it's really like a work up and down system. They'll come out, like someone was just asking me the other day, what's the best way to should I go with dealer financing? Just because, and I told him, I was like, go get pre-approved first, you know, on your own at your own bank, bring that, let them show their hand. And if it's 2 points higher than that, be like, I'm just going with my own financing. Because what they want to do is be like, oh, this is the best rate there is, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, just like,
and they make money on the rates too. Yeah.
Got it. Bonuses on the rates, and not to like put down the entire car industry. It's just an old industry that hasn't upgraded or changed in a very long time. You know? And I just didn't like that. You know, it always felt like I'm trying to keep something hidden, and I'm not that kind of person. You know, I'm pretty straightforward. I'm always myself. So I didn't like that much. You know, so that's why, you know.
How have companies like there's like TrueCar and different companies where you can just buy it online and there's not really salespeople, right? Or have those
like Carvana and things like
Carvana,
that.
Or not TrueCar, Carvana, like the ones where you can just buy cars online.
Yeah,
there's a lot of online places you can go.
I mean, people do it, but the majority of people regret it because with a car, I mean, it's good to have, like what I would always tell people is like, the reason you're coming to me is because something's going to happen to your car, eventually, and you're going to want somebody to help with it, you know, and I want to be that person, right? I want to be that person you can call and be like, hey, how do I use my warranty? How do I do that? The issue is people just want to not deal with people like me in that sense, like maybe not me in particular, but yeah, I mean, people don't want to go through all that. They don't want to play the games, and they don't want to have to like be told to come in and drive it. So they just want to put that coin in the vending machine, take their car. But then when it comes time for something that goes wrong, because we're going to die and cars are going to break. You know what I mean? When it comes time for that, then most people regret the decision.
It's funny. That's why I told the dude, I'm like, I want to use the one in my house so that if I need an oil change or if I get a crack in my windshield or whatever, I can drop the car off 5 minutes from my house, you know? So I think that's a good point. And so basically, like insurance it's a similar, like where it's still sales, but there's a lot less, like you can't manipulate the sale at all.
Exactly.
Right. Like the sale is based on what the carrier says the sale is based on. It sounds like in cars, the reason it has a bad rap is because you can add more to the front end, you can add more to the back end, you can add more to the financing. So there's no real transparency.
Yeah. If someone comes in and they haven't looked at your website on a car, right, and they come in and they see that, and then they want to buy that car, they can change the price online, right, in 5 minutes, and then be like, this is how much it is, right? So they're like, how much do they love it? You're like, they like it a lot, you know, and they're like, okay, cool, we could probably get away with an extra $1-2 grand.
Yeah.
You know?
What now? How come sometimes on the website they give you a price that's like low, like it'll say like 50 grand or whatever, or and then you go in and it's a lot higher when you actually go in.
It just depends on how much, if they want, demand, right? They're like, other people want this car. If you want it today, it's going to be 55. Or they're like, it hasn't been through the shop yet. Right?
Yeah.
That's a big one. Hasn't been through the shop yet. Right.
Got it.
And it's just such a free, like there's no regulation on it.
So they're giving you the MSRP online. This is like what it could be. This is the lowest it could be priced at. And then they add whatever fees they have to on top.
Or they just say that was wrong. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's not like right. Like it doesn't feel right. And when you're the one selling it and, these people are like, but I saw the price online, it was 38. Why is it 40 now? And they're like, it was put online wrong. You're like, no, it wasn't. We're just doing, like that's where it's hard for me, like where it was like a tough industry and like to each their own. Right. I mean, I know a lot of good car salesmen. I know a lot of great dealerships of people who are really great, but the issue is, one place giving a bad rep and you have one bad experience at a car dealership, you're never going to trust car dealerships again. Yeah, dude.
Like the guy I was telling you I bought mine from in Bee Cave, the Cadillac dealership. That guy was awesome. He texted me. He was super easy to work with. Like couldn't. And I think it gets insurance agents get a bad rap too because a couple agents will do policies the wrong way or
tell you it's a whole life.
They'll lie to you and they'll make it. So I think that could happen in any. But there's lawyers who get a bad rap, doctors get a bad rap, business people anyone can get a bad rap, right? Yeah. So as long as you're a good person in the industry, most people are good.
Yeah.
The bad ones just kind of put a cloud over it. But like we were saying before, like with insurance, it's nice because if you have someone who's so 50 years old, they have these health conditions, there's a few carriers they qualify with, and that's the price.
That's it, yeah.
And you can't add to it or take off. Like your commission's set, the amount that they're getting paid is set. Like there's nothing you can do to manipulate it.
Exactly.
Which is very transparent to the client, right? Mm-hmm. Did that make it easier to sell, do you think, when you're being so transparent with the client?
I think to a degree, yeah. I mean, simply put, yeah, for sure. Just because people are like, I've had a few people on the phone, right? Everyone has, where they're like, this last person was just trying to raise the price on me. I'm like, sir,
you can't do that.
That's not how it works. I was like, I mean, they literally can't. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, but being able to be that transparent and also that this is the most federally regulated business, in the country, is I love that. I stand behind that, right? When I'm telling people, I'm like, look, there's so many laws like in place here. That, this isn't like a game. We aren't negotiating here. This is just what you can qualify for.
Yeah.
And whether you want to do that with me or you want to keep doing it somewhere else, that's fine. But the only person who's going to suffer is if you wait too long and you pass away with nothing.
Yeah.
So that, I like that. I like that cut and dryness. I like the simplicity of it and just getting people what they need and then knowing that it was the best product.
Right.
And as long as you're not one of the, I've never like understood the like sell a term like as a whole, but like I haven't met anyone on any of my teams that do that. You know what I mean?
No.
Or, it's not that common, but like you said, one person, all it takes is one person and then word of mouth to 10 other people, then those people don't trust it either. You know what I mean? But
yeah, no, I think like we've always trained people to just do the right thing. And instead of taking shortcuts, like, the wheels of justice move slow, but eventually if you do the wrong thing, it will catch up to you, and as long as you keep doing the right thing enough, like you may have to work more early until you get good. But the great thing about our industry is that you can just outwork if you're not very good.
Yep.
You can just outwork it. You can just make more phone calls, do more presentations, and there's no limit on how many calls you can make. It's just limit on how much time you have a day, right? But you can outwork suck. Like I sucked in the beginning.
Yeah.
I just outworked sucking, and I think a lot of people come in without any skill set, and you had some sales experience already.
Yeah.
But you can really just outwork it,
Yeah, and it didn't really train. I don't think I don't think the sales training I had before, but that's the thing. I was like, I had this like face up of that it wasn't me. I was, it was like I was trying to sell something and people can smell that, they call it commission breath and stuff like that. But
dude, I think the best way to sell is to try to relieve sales pressure as much as possible, right? And just ask really good questions and make it like you don't care if they buy or not. That's when I got good at selling was when I realized like later in my career, like it's hard when you don't have money because I was broke as crap when I started.
I can relate.
And then like you need money, so you're trying to sell. And then when I realized like later, I was still selling when our team was doing like $1 million a month. I was still in the field, and I literally didn't care, and I was super busy, and my phone was ringing all the time. So I was like, "Hey, do you want this or not? Like, if not, I gotta go." But you told me you need this, so if you want it, can we get it done? And I didn't give you know what, like I just didn't care. But people were like, no, I want to buy because I didn't care at all. And they could tell I didn't need it, you know? And then I was like, oh, like, so we can train people to sell like that before even if you need the money, like how do you sell like you don't care? Yeah. How do you be super presumptive? You know, how do you be willing to walk away from the sale if you don't need it? Because if you sell someone doesn't want it anyways, they're going to cancel, right?
100%. Yeah.
So it's like, how do you be presumptive, ask good questions, and tell the clients what to do? And with our system now, where you can do virtual sales, you can make so many calls a day to where it doesn't matter if each person buys or not. It's like, okay, just hang up and call the next one, right?
Yep. And I think like that's like really, I mean, everything you just said was kind of my story. So, you know, I can relate heavily to not being very good in the beginning. And then just like, you know, John Wetmore style, do more now, get better later. You know what I mean? And that became like my philosophy. But at first, like, it was really just like, you know, like what's going on? Why am I not doing it? And it was a lot of just like, oh man, have no money and I got rent coming up. I need to sell this one. And it just sounds so needy, you know? And, but yeah, once I was able to let go of that, and what I thought was really cool is when I finally got like a coach in this or somebody who was actually like mentoring me with it pretty heavy. The cool thing about this business, it's so easy to narrow down where the problem is, like where the hole in the boat is. Like, so I was told, how many dials you making? I was like 250 a day. And they're like, do 500 and tell me how many appointments you made, how many people you talked to, how many you closed. Right. And so once I was doing 500 dials and still not selling, we were able to look at what parts, like, okay, how many people are we talking to? Okay. So you're talking to people, you're making the dials. So you just can't close these. Yeah. Or you can't present. Right. And so once we were able to narrow that down, and then I was able to, you know, like you said, just ask questions. People ask me all the time. Like someone asked me recently, they're like, how do you trick people to staying on the phone if they're at work? And I was like, I don't understand the question, because you can't trick anybody. You know,
you're not tricking anyone. You're not trying to trick them.
They can hang up at any point. Like I was like, you aren't tricky. You can do two things on a call. You can ask good questions and provide value. Yeah. And that's it. Right. It's only weird. Like, it's not weird to push past objections with, you know, like, I'm not interested. It's just, you know, I tell people all the time, like, I literally every time they're like, I'm not interested. I'm like, were you just concerned about getting approved, or was it too much money? Yeah. And they always respond with one of those two things. Like, it's never like some random thing. It's like one of those two things.
You're just redirecting people, right?
Yeah. And then you're just redirecting it down that script, and just, you keep going and stay on track, and, you know, you help protect families. But
yeah, I think the biggest issue people have in sales a lot of times is someone gives an objection and they want to be right, instead of, like, I learned, like, dude, if you just ignore it and then get people back on track. So like to your point, like, hey, I'm not interested in this. Okay, sounds good. Like what I would always say to people, like, hey, I'm not interested. Like, cool, man. I was just calling because you filled the form out. So I just had to go through this information with you. So if you don't want to buy it, it's all good. But I do have to get you the information. Does that sound fair? Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Like, where you say no to that. Okay. Like, I'm not going like, but I think a lot of people when they're new, they go, yeah, of course you're interested. You filled it out. Like, why are you going to argue with that?
Every time.
I don't want to be right. Like, I don't care about being right. I want to get paid.
Yeah. 100%.
You know, or like your thing you said, like it doesn't matter what you say, but you just ignore their. Yeah. And people all the time like, oh, I don't want life insurance. Okay, sounds good. Anyways, you put your birthday was 1/1 of 2000, right? Yeah. Okay. You just ignore it and keep moving through. Yeah. And then people can't, you know, because they're all smoke screens. But if you start being confrontational with people, then you lose.
Yeah, it's like, why?
If you start arguing with them, then you lose, because then they're mad at you, right? So you just want to no sales pressure, diffuse the situation, and keep moving forward, right?
100%. Yeah, it's crazy, like how you just ask a question and they go, oh, is this? And then you just hop into health questions, and boom, suddenly you're writing a policy. Like, it literally blew my mind realizing that, you know. And really, like you said, if someone's like not interested, I'm like, look, there's so many people who need help. It's okay if you aren't. Like, just, I have liability here. I got to make sure you get this info. We'll do that real quick and we're done. Okay. Yeah.
And when we talk about relieving sales pressure too, it's like, so you sell a lot of like straight term leads or vet leads or whatever, right? Yeah. Like the things, for anyone's watching, like, what does that mean? It's like, okay, if someone, so say it's a term lead, right? Like, hey, I assume you filled this out because you want to make sure you have, you know, a couple $100,000 of coverage, looking for some kind of term coverage. Most people in your similar situation do X, Y, and Z, right? Like, you're just making people feel comfortable with what everyone else does. Yep. Hey, I'm going to ask you a few health questions, see what you qualify for. I assume if you're like everyone else that fills this out, you filled it out because you want to make sure, you know, your wife or your kids get some sort of death benefit when you die. Does that sound right? Yeah. You know, like a lot of people ask questions. They're like, hey, why'd you fill this out? It's like, don't ask that question. Yeah. Ask a very pointed question.
You know why you filled this out.
Yeah. But if you ask open-ended questions, you can get dumb answers, right? Like if you ask someone, why did you fill this out? They could go, well, I saw it online, right? But if you go, hey, I assume you filled this out because you want to make sure when you die, your kids get some sort of money left over to them. Is that correct? They have to go so far their way to disagree with you that they're not going to do it. They're going to say, yeah, that's correct. 100%. Right?
And I mean, if they were like, no, I don't have any family, I don't care. It's like, okay, so did you want cash value or what?
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
exactly.
So, I mean, there's something here, you know, but just asking like, yeah, like you said, open-ended questions don't get you anywhere in sales. Like it just has to be direct and like, it has to be a point. And that's what the thing about a script that changed my life is I was winging it, and maybe I can ask good questions, all that, but I always tell like new agents and stuff, I mean, including myself, and remind myself is that like the script's not necessarily there for, you know, the customer. It's there for you to stay on track and have a structure to this. Because without structure, where are we going with this? You know, we could be talking for 30 minutes and then they're like, well, I got to go. And you're like, oh, well, let me get the quote, you know, I mean, then it's just weird, you know, but I good questions are the answer to everything. And that's every sales business. You know what I mean? But yeah.
And you get paid. I mean, you get paid in our business for solving problems for people, right? So like the way, if you're selling insurance, you start out all the appointments, or you should anyways, is like, hey, I assume you filled this out for someone if you die to leave money to someone, right? Yeah. Who's that person going to be? My daughter. Okay. What's your daughter's name? Right. And you figure out like the entire reason they filled it out. And then if they have no reason, if they're like, no, I'm worth $10 million and my kids are rich, and like, okay, dude, we have nothing. Like, I'm going to go to call my next person.
Yep.
But if you figure out like that they're 75 years old, have never had insurance, their kid, you know, is a single mom with 3 kids and has no extra money to pay for their funeral, then you have something to stand on and a service to provide to that person, right? And you can move to the appointment.
100%.
What do you think drove you to? So you were in the service industry for a while, car sales for a little bit. Like, what do you think stood out about this industry that made you want to make a switch to life insurance?
I think like the 2 main reasons anyone like comes to this is either more time or more money. And for me, it was both, right?
Yeah.
I was to make 150 grand. I was between 150, 200,000. You were at the dealership 6 days a week. You don't take days off. You're there in the morning. You don't have lunch. You never eat, right?
Yeah.
Like you literally just don't eat because you got appointments all day. And then it's you're there on Saturdays, and you never see your family. And then also, I mean, for that amount of work, like it just depends on what you think you're worth and like what you want, right? Like if 100 grand's for you, cool, man. There's a lot of industries you can make 100 grand.
Yeah.
You know, but there aren't a lot of industries that I could be like. This summer was one of my favorite moments in my life, was closing this deal on a raft on a river in Durango.
Yeah.
Right. With my friends around me, my dog's there, and I'm helping a husband and wife get the whole life that they've been looking for, you know, and it's an Ethos app. So it's on my phone, you know, I have the app and it's signed and done.
Yeah. You can work from wherever.
Yeah. I'm literally in the sun in a bathing suit. Like, have a great day, guys. Look forward to being your agent for life, you know?
Yeah. Like you mentioned, the first training I ever did that you saw, I was in the parking lot after my kid was born during training. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go back inside now. Right.
Literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, and I'm sitting there in a truck at the dealership, like hoping somebody comes in. Right?
Yeah.
And like, and they you know, at some point they have to come in, and then also how much time it takes, you know, like to sell a car or a roof or solar, there's installs and there's all this is, I mean, 20 minutes on the phone. Like with a lot of the leads I work are, you know, kind of one call closes, and they're, you know, generally 25 to 30 minutes max. And that's, it's only 30 minutes if we're chatting, you know. But that's what I love, you know, 30 minutes, you've protected their family. They never have to worry about this again. And you're on to the next family, and you keep dialing.
So when you first got into sales, was that you got the credit card and then the car sales, service industry before that? Did you have family that was in sales, or why did you decide to start doing sales from being in the service industry?
Yeah, when I was the last restaurant I worked in, it was the only fine dining restaurant I'd never worked in that I'd ever worked at. Yeah, the only non-fine dining restaurant that I ever worked in. So, and it was a deli, and I was training basically 16-year-olds how to sweep floors, right?
Yeah.
I'm just losing my mind. But I was so pumped about $32,500 a year. I thought that $32,000, just having that salary was going to be, you know, I was an adult. I made it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm a manager. I got salary, and I couldn't even afford, like some months you could barely afford groceries with rent, you know?
Right.
And so then a woman who sold my wife a car, I heard that she made 100 grand selling cars. And I used to think,
shit, that's 3 times what I made.
Yeah, I used to think 6 figures was like the Mecca, right? We were like, once we cross that, that's the golden bridge, right? I'll be set for life. You know, making 100 grand and realizing it's not that much is pretty tough. But, you know, but when I did that, and then I went and actually did that, I was obsessed with sales, right? Because because like sales, it doesn't matter who you are, your background, anything like that. All that matters, like, I think work ethic personally. Like I've met a lot of really talented, smart people who suck at sales. You know what I mean? And it's only because they don't continue to put the effort in. But it's not one of those businesses where it's just like this person's going to be amazing or this person's going to be amazing. But it is the only industry where you can make more money than a doctor, you know, without a degree. And I didn't have the money. I didn't have the money to go to college. I was going to join the military to go to college, but then I found the sales job. I was literally on my way to MEPS in a week for National Guard. I was like 25 or 24, something like that. And I told my wife, I think I'm going to get into sales first. And then I went to the recruiting office to tell them that, and man, did they try to hard close me into it, you know? Nothing against it, but he basically told me, he's like, yeah, well, that's what I want to do too, is sales. And like, that's what their position is sales. By the end of it, he was like, that's what I want to do. And I was like, so why am I going to do all this just to end up back where I could go right now? So the car industry was good for what it was.
So you were going from hospitality, then you were going to go to the military, but did sales instead. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
So I could get college.
Okay. You wanted to go to college. Got it. Why did you want to go to college?
Make 6 figures.
Got it.
You know, I was like, I'm going to go figure something out, you know?
Did your family do college or?
No, I mean, my sister's the only one who graduated, but you know, she didn't go for like a money-making opportunity. And no, my mom's in sales kind of, I think, you know, I've never really fully, she's a publisher, but a big part of it is sales. Like, so she's in private publishing. So basically the like Amazon's the enemy type thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So she like sells and keeps private bookstores alive, and she's like pretty well known in that. So I mean, I think that just the idea of being able to talk to people for a living and solve problems, right? Like, I love solving problems, you know, like I may not be great at solving my own, but I love making people feel happy and like, you know, safe, things like that. And that's what you get to do in sales, right? Like, especially like when car sales, that was why I did all right, was, you know, people would come in and they're expecting another salesperson. And I'm like, look, I'm just here to be your guy for life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about just selling this one car. It's, you know, I really want to be your guy. You have a family doctor, you have a family lawyer, but you don't have a family car salesman. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't have like a salesperson in their life, right? For what they need. Life insurance though. And then but the car industry, there's only so much you can make.
Yeah.
Because
unless you literally own the dealership, right?
Exactly. There's only 2 options. You're either GM or owner, or you're selling every day of your life.
Dude, I have friends who are GMs too, and some that have come to work with us, but they work really, really hard for a long time, 15, 20 years to get in that spot, and they make like $300,000 a year, right? Yep. 400 maybe if they're crushing it. And they can be fired
at any time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a friend who lives in Austin here who he was the GM of the Range Rover dealership downtown. And a new company bought it, the downtown dealership, and this guy was killing it. He was like, there's like #1 Range Rover dealership in Texas, probably because we're in Austin and everyone drives a Range Rover. But the new people that bought it put his son as the GM and fired the guy who was like the #1. He's like, I didn't get fired for any reason besides the guy wanted his son to be there, right? Yep. So I think to your point, like it could be very political, right? It just whoever wants to be in charge can be in charge at any time, right? And I think I think one thing that COVID did for a lot of people was made them realize, like, if you have a W-2 job, when I first started recruiting people in this business, the big objection was like, well, my salary is not guaranteed. There's no security. And that was kind of the thing people would say is why they didn't want to do insurance. Then when COVID happened and everyone got laid off and furloughed and didn't make any money, it's like, dude, you don't have any security anyway. You actually have a lot more security if you're in charge of your own. Now it takes some backbone to take a gamble on yourself, but you have more security if you're in charge of your own income, if you're the person that's actually making the decisions, right? And I think this industry, I think it recruits or opens up to a lot of people who are like very driven, maybe a little bit broken in a lot of ways, like have had, you know, a drug or substance or different issues in their past. Like I haven't drank for 3 years. I've been sober for 3 years. I don't, and a lot of people are like that. They've had substance abuse issues or drinking or gambling, but they can channel that into, you know, this industry, which can be the same sort of dopamine hits. You can just channel it in the right way, you know, to build a business and whatnot.
Literally that, man. Yeah. This is like a dopamine rush every day. You know, every time you help a family and every time you watch, like, you know, getting paid like every day is crazy. You know what I mean? Like watching money hit your account every day, that's a dopamine hit. But also like, it's not so much that like I quit like drinking and, and drugs because like this was that, but it was just mostly, I knew what I wanted out of this. Like, I think you could be pretty successful in any industry and still be a drug addict. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've met them, but like this business is like a character building business.
Yeah.
And, I like, if there's anything I love in this world, it's character building. I always knew I wanted to be somebody. I always knew I wanted to be that person in my family who broke like generational chains and addiction curses and income curses, right? Like my parents were pretty afraid of money growing up. Like we never talked about money. You know what I mean? My family never did. So I'm like Sean M said on his call recently, he was talking about like financial F students, right? Like, and that's me, like, and that's part of the reason I even got into this industry was I wanted to learn for my own family. I wanted to help my own family be financially successful and know what to do those things. And being able to, help at that level and also get paid at the level we do is crazy, but yeah, so, I mean, yeah, I think that the reason I quit like the drugs and alcohol for this, it was after, actually I was still doing it pretty early in this year, but after Ignite Vegas, I heard Christo go up on stage and his story changed everything for me. And I went up to him after and was like, bro, that's my life. And he's like, bad times get better if you don't stop. And I was like, all right. So I just doubled down on everything. And that's about when, things started to change. But I just did it because, I always wanted more in this industry. It gives you the opportunity to take whatever you want as long as you're willing to give, always more. I do think it always takes more. But.
Dude, this is the first, when I first started doing this and meeting people like Sean, other people in this industry, people who did really well, was the first time that I was like, oh, it's okay not to like go to happy hour at 5 o'clock and drink. It's okay to not watch football all day on Sunday and Saturday. Like if you want to do that stuff, it's okay. But like if you want to make more money for your family, you can do that. Like if you want to work the day before and after Thanksgiving, it's okay.
Yeah.
Dude, we used to dial on Thanksgiving morning because we'd run into home appointments the next day. But we used to dial Thanksgiving morning. Yeah. And my family would be like, why are you working? And I'd be like, because I want to. Like because I'm trying to do something different and build something different for my family. And I think like this was the first time I was exposed to the idea that it's okay not to like fall in line with what everyone else does.
Yep.
It's like if you want to work 100 hours a week, work 100 hours a week. If you want to work 10, work 10.
Yep.
But you make your own decisions. You don't have to drink. You don't have to go out. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. Yeah. And I kind of grew up, not my parents, but the peers I was around, where everyone was like, you work during the week, and then like Friday comes around, you drink Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then like you wake up Monday feeling like crap. You get back to work on Tuesday, and then like you do the same thing week after week. And at a certain point in my life, I was just not interested in that anymore. Like it didn't appeal to me anymore. And it's not how I wanted my wife to see me. It's not how I wanted my kids to see me. It's not how I wanted to be viewed. You know, my first kid, dude, I stopped drinking a year before we had our first kid. My kids will never see me drinking. Not because I think it's bad. Like my parents can have a glass of wine and be fine. I can't. I'm like, let's have 4 bottles of wine.
Exactly.
But you know, I think that it was cool to be a part of a organization where people empowered you to be who you wanted to be and like showed you there's other route you could take.
100%.
You can be a winner in a different way. You don't have to do what everyone else does. You don't have to be normal in this normal society of like people who are generally losers and don't do anything with their lives, don't leave an impact. What you mentioned, you getting around the right people and having some people teach you how to do this industry the right way. What kind of a difference do you think it makes to be a part of the right culture of, people that care about making money and you can talk about a part of this question too. Like you talked about before, you've been a part of organizations where people were on your side when you were paying them. And then when you weren't paying them, they were not your friends anymore. So like, what's it like being a part of a group that roots for you, no matter if they make money for you, not, they're on your side no matter what? What's like, has that changed the way you view?
I think like I've been on like a side where it was like you said, in that culture where you pay to be part of, it felt really good at first. Right? But then when you're down bad and you don't have the money anymore, no one's there anymore, it really hurts, right? And then
Why did it feel so good? Just because they made you feel good because you were paying for it?
Just to be part, just to kind of feel like part of in general, you know what I mean? Like you said, this world's kind of filled with a bunch of people who aren't really chasing something, who don't really care about making an impact, like you said. And I think that it's kind of hard to find those people. So I was fine paying to be around them. I was like, I just want to be around these people.
And you're paying like 40 grand a year for coaching, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to say I made less money, you know,
no, it worked.
Made more money. You know, I also watch people spend, you know, like $1,000 and then be pissed that it wouldn't work, you know, because they weren't doing it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think mostly I just kept spending the money. I probably at some point didn't need to keep spending the money to be part of that, you know, or I could have just joined the team. Right.
Yeah.
But that's not what I wanted. I never wanted to be, I never wanted to be like just another worker at a company for that. So that's like, it was either join the team or keep paying to be part of the team. And I didn't want to be their culture, right? I didn't want that culture as my life. So I didn't want to be part of it. Once that went away, it was that. But then also, like, without the right culture, I think that it's almost like impossible to get to where you want to go. You know what I mean? Like, but the thing that's a lot of industries, you're stuck with the culture that's right there. Like when I'm in the dealership, like for the most part, my culture is who's there.
Yeah.
Like who's my manager, who's the people working with me, and none of them are doing what I'm doing except for maybe the manager, right? But with this, like maybe like there was some culture when I started with the, you know, my upline and things like that, but I really sought out more culture, right? And that's the cool thing about this industry. There's so many amazing people who just hop on a Zoom and they're like, here's my number, call me.
Yeah.
And like, it's completely up to you if you call them, right? And then it's completely up to you if you take the advice they give you and use it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's I like that in this culture here that I've found, yeah, you don't need to pay to be part of. Yes, they will absolutely help you grow, but they aren't like, no one's going to wait around and hold your hand.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? And that's important too. I don't think that, and I think that that's really what I love. I like earning stuff, right?
Yeah.
I like being that person and having respect because I earned it, right? Not because I paid for it or not because they need to give it to me, right? And the better you do, the more opportunities you get. You know what I mean? Like, and
it's all merit based, right?
Yep.
I was having this conversation with someone yesterday. They called me. I like them a lot, actually. They're on one of my guys I've worked with for a while. And he was like, man, why don't you ever like call me and check in anymore and like go through stuff? And I was like, dude, you sell the same amount of insurance you sold 2 years ago. Your team does the same amount of volume it did 2 years ago. Like, I like you, but me talking to you obviously doesn't help anything. And he was like, well, give me a number to hit. I'm like, no, dude, you go hit the number. Like, you give you a number to hit. You need to be motivated by yourself, not by me telling you to do something or not do something. And he's like, well, what do I need to do for you to mentor me? I'm like, dude, if there's something that I can help you with, I'll help you. But me talking to you obviously is not helping. Yep. You start progressing and having new issues, I'll help you, right? So to your point, it's like you get help if you are doing the right things to be mentored. When I was new, dude, if I had my upline her team outside of us never did over $150,000 a month. She never sold over $30,000 ever.
That's
right?
Crazy. Yeah.
Dude, if I had waited on that one person to teach me how to do this business, I never would have done anything.
100%.
Dude, we probably wouldn't have a team at all.
Yeah.
But I went and seeked out people who were doing what I wanted to do. And I think when you're an independent contractor, that's your job, is to seek the information out and then apply it, like you said, right?
Absolutely.
And it wasn't like people were like always super easy to get it from. I just kept asking them no matter what. Even if I felt like I was bothering them, I didn't care.
Yeah,
I kept calling people, kept doing things. Dude, I moved to Vegas so I could be around Andrew.
I was like, I know your story.
Dude, I did not care at all. I was shameless about it. I think that but when it's your life and your family's financial future on the line, to get the information, I didn't care. I didn't care if they didn't like me. I didn't care if they didn't want to give it to me. I was going to get it either way.
Yeah.
And I think when you're an independent contractor, you can't wait for people to give you permission. You have to go and take it, 100%. And take it by the horns and control your own destiny. Last thing I wanted to ask you about is like coming from, you've been in different sales organizations. On the car dealership, people come on to the dealership. You don't have to buy leads.
Yep.
In the restaurants, people come in. You don't have to buy leads. They come into the restaurant. What was the mindset shift like to going from never having to really pay for marketing, run your own business, to being able to having to buy leads to be in business?
Yeah.
Is that hard? Was that a hard adjustment for you?
I mean, it was, because I just looked at, like, I guess you could say, like, I was pretty afraid to spend money because the little money I had, I was like, I need this, right? And I thought of it more like if I had to go into buying leads, that it was, more of a bill than anything.
Yeah.
Right. And I wasn't thinking of it as an investment in my life, right? In my family's future. And I think that if you can change that mindset from like, you aren't spending 10,000, you're investing 10,000 to get 50.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you can just switch it, and it takes time too. Like, and people always ask, like they're always asking these questions like of, well, this isn't working for me or that isn't. I'm like, stop wondering if it's working. Like you're gonna know the day it's working, right?
Yeah.
You just gotta keep doing it. And if there's anything I can say on that note, it's just that this business isn't like, it's not easy, but it is easy to understand, right?
It's simple.
Yeah.
It's simple, but it's hard work.
Yeah.
People always say it's easy, and I don't agree with that. You're right. It's a very simple business. You buy leads, you call the leads, you sell, right?
Yep.
Like you said in the beginning, like I'm glad, I think Calvin probably went through that with you, but like that's what I always taught our managers is like, if someone's not selling, it can only be three things. One is they're not getting enough leads. Two is they're not dialing enough. Or three is they can't close.
Yep.
And ask the right questions to figure out which, but dude, outside of that, it literally could be nothing else. Like there's no other lever. Our business has three pieces to it: buy leads, call leads, close them. That's literally it. So if it's not one of those three, like if you can't figure out which one, they're lying about something, right? 100%. And typically it's the second one. They don't dial enough or they don't invest in leads enough. And if you're doing the first two, the third one is fixable. Like you said in the beginning, you didn't close a lot. Calvin worked with you a little bit. Now you're closing a lot. Like that's an easy one because you already have to work.
Then getting more leads in, right?
Yeah,
like
getting more leads.
Like I had the dials, then I was learning how to close, but then I needed more leads.
Yeah.
And once all three of those combined, it hasn't, it's never gone down.
Then it snowballs.
It just goes up,
I think your point is like a lot of people when they're getting lead and it's like not working for them, they seek out other people that it's also not working for. Yeah. So like they'll call like their other, they'll look at a leaderboard, then they'll go, okay, like, oh, Bob sells 10 grand a month. I sell 10. Let me call him and see if it's not working for him too. And like what I learned pretty early on was all the people who were where I was in the business, like selling the same amount, building the same amount, like they couldn't teach me anything and they suck, dude. I don't want to be like them. So I was like, I'd look at the people who were doing way more and call them and look for them to tell me what I was doing wrong. And I think when you can change that mindset to go like, let me call my peers and bitch and complain with them to go like, hey, let me call someone else who's a winner and they can tell me what I'm doing wrong. That's when you start to progress in business, right?
Yep.
I remember the best example I have of this is I had someone roll me $170,000 in debt. It was a lot of money, right? I thought it was a lot of money. Yeah. I called Andrew. I'm like, someone rolled me $170,000. He goes, how much did you make last year? I was like, I don't know, like just a little shy of 2 million. He's like, okay, well, so you made 1.83 instead, 5 years into a business. And I go, okay, sounds good. Yeah. And I was, it's not that big of a deal, right? But in my head, it was a big deal. Yep. And if I had called someone else where I was at in the business, like, they would have been like, holy crap, $170,000. Andrew was like, who cares, dude? Keep moving, write it off. Oh, okay, sounds good. So I think it's so important you get around the right people and ask for help from the people who can actually help you get to where you're going instead of commiserating with your peers who are at the same spot you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, on that point, there's nothing else that I believe more than just keeping away from that negativity if someone's being like that. Yeah. I mean, I'll sit on the phone. People call me all the time to complain, honestly. Like a lot of, new agents do all the time, but I tell them all the time, I'm like, I'll listen to them. I'll talk to them. And when they're like, I got like $1,000 chargeback, I remember losing my truck and waking up to 10 grand in chargebacks. And I was just like, well, keep dialing.
Keep going. Yeah.
And like, I mean, there's never one time that I called one of my uplines just to complain. Yeah. And I think that that's one thing that the guy who started helping coach me, Calvin and stuff, was he told me you're coachable. He's like, you apply what it is, and also you can get yelled at. I'm totally fine being yelled at and you asking me, yo, what are you saying? Yeah. Say this because I need to hear that. But a lot of people will hear that and just get angry. Yeah. Like, what do you mean? Right.
So, and the other thing you have to start doing too with the people that are calling you to complain, you have to train people how to talk to you, right? Like what I had to start doing with people, they call me to complain. I go, hey man, are you calling me to complain or are you calling me because you want advice on how to fix the situation? Yeah. And if they're like, whoa, I just kind of wanted to vent. I'd be like, don't vent to me, bro. Yeah. I'm busy.
Yeah, vent to God.
Yeah, vent to God, dude. Call your wife, call your mom, call someone else. Don't call me. Yeah. But if you can start to, but then some people will be like, well, I want a solution. Like the solution is you made 134 dials. You wake up at 10 a.m. every day. You don't work very hard. Yeah. Why don't you start working as much as and you can help them, right? Yeah. But if you let people complain, it's a really easy way. It hurts your mindset and it doesn't help them. Absolutely. So like I learned to challenge people and what'll happen is the winners will keep calling you because they'll want help. And the people who are losers will not call you and it won't waste your time and it won't waste your mental space. And so I think that's the next step for you is like, hey, like, are you calling me because you want a solution or are you calling me to complain? Yeah. Calling to complain. Cool. I got to go.
I know what I'm going to be doing this.
Calling
next
for a
week then,
solution.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's work on it, right?
Solution or complain? Which one are we
No
doing?
doubt.
Cool. I'm in.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you for doing this with us, dude. It was a blast. I appreciate everything you're doing, and you're growing like crazy. So I'm looking forward to watching you keep rolling.
Appreciate it, Zach.